Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everybody? I hope you all had some nice holidays going on, because I know in North America during the past week, we've had a bunch like Canada Day or Independence Day and stuff like that. But I will say that on my end, I'm pretty much doing the best I can because things have been a little rough lately. As you probably have heard on my YouTube channel, unfortunately, I did get a copyright strike mainly because of my latest review of K-pop Demon Hunters. I guess, honestly, I don't know what happened really, considering that right now it's becoming very popular on the platform. Netflix is becoming a little more sensitive when it comes to people using any clips or stuff like that. So I guess they got a lot more trigger happy in terms of copyright strikes and stuff like that. But I will tell you right now, I'm doing everything I can in order to go and combat it, and unfortunately, there's not much else I can do other than to go and wait until the problem can be resolved, and hopefully, later this month, we will have the review come out on YouTube. But in the meantime, I'll just be keeping it as a Patreon exclusive, so if you want to go and check out the K-pop Demon Hunters review before it does come out on YouTube, then, if you want to go and check it out before it does get released publicly on YouTube, then just join my Patreon. That, and also, I am a little bit on edge today, mainly because there's been a pretty bad storm out there. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't interfere with what's going on right over here with this episode of the podcast and with this stream especially. So I'll just let you know right now, if there are any sudden technical difficulties that does happen during the middle of the show, then you know why. It's mainly because of forces beyond my control, and it's because the weather has been going quite crazy today. Well, pretty fitting for this podcast, but not necessarily the kind of crazy that we do want. However, even though I am facing crazy weather and a copyright strike on my YouTube channel, that is nothing compared to what others have been dealing with. And this is especially the case with Texas, where unfortunately there was this terrible flood that did occur. I believe it was on the 4th of July, in which many people, hundreds, if not thousands of people that have been affected by the floods. And unfortunately, that did come with some casualties, including adults and, yes, even some children who have unfortunately passed away during this time. And it's also frustrating to see that many of the politicians there, especially Republican politicians, that they don't want to go and take any action whatsoever to go and fix the situation, especially when they kind of caused the situation by taking away the tools needed to go and alert people about these natural disasters occurring. And all they could do is just offer their thoughts and prayers, which stuff like this is especially why Christianity has been given more and more of a bad name, and it's becoming more and more unpopular. It really is a factor that conservatism is starting to become more and more of the enemy of Christianity. And if there ever is a future where nobody is going to be praying for Jesus anymore, then you can pretty much blame Republicans for that. And in terms of actions like this, where thoughts and prayers pretty much means nothing to people. However, there is a way that you can help out and that you can offer much more than just your thoughts and prayers. Now, if you would like to go and actually give your assistance, if there's any way that you want to go and help out with the people who have been affected by the Texas floods, then what I can recommend is if you go to over here, which is the official website of the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country, in which they have opened up the Care Country Flood Relief Fund. And just to go and read you a little bit from the website itself, they stated that grants for the fund will support nonprofit organizations, first responder agencies, and local governments actively involved in response, relief, and recovery efforts. While we are unable to award grants directly to individuals or families or to fund repairs to private property or replace personal belongings, we are committed to challenging resources to the trusted organizations working tirelessly to help out our neighbors in need. Together, we can make a meaningful difference during this challenging time. So, again, if you would like to go and make a donation to go and help out the people of Texas, or at least to go and help out with the nonprofit organizations who are helping those people out, then again, just go to cftexashillcountry.fcsuite.com and you could go and actually make a donation. Now, you don't have to make a stupidly huge one, but at least something to go and help them out on that. But with that said, now, I think now it is time we could go and get into the fun of this episode. So now I would like to go and ask the chat wall, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready for this? All right, so let's see now. Are people prepared? Okay, yes. Ooh, JF is more than ready, now becoming a new fish. All right, yes, I see people are prepared. People are all set for this. All right, so that is beautiful. And I do believe now it is time that we shall go and get things started. And in order to go and begin with this, we're going to go and get into something a little bit light, a bit of a practice round before we really get into the stories that we have here. And what I got for you is actually a trailer, not the big trailer that came out recently, but this is actually more of a smaller trailer that will go and present an independent animated feature. One that has been making a little bit of its rounds, being passed around on social media here and there, and especially from the animation news outlets, that honestly I feel like it would be worth discussing about, worth looking into to see what indie animation can go and offer. At least indie animation that is beyond YouTube and beyond social media, which is the grand majority of indie animation, funny enough. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start off with our first story, as we're going to be checking out the trailer for the upcoming surrealistic indie animated feature, Boys Go to Jupiter.
Everyone's on cop mode these days. Like, oh, don't hang out at the gas station. Don't hang out at the beach.
No shirt, no shoes, no problem. But guess where I read that? A shirt.
And
Everyone's...
hold on, there we go. And that is Boys Go to Jupiter. And I will explain where this is going to be released. But first off, I want to go and discuss a little bit about the filmmaker in particular, in which this was actually made by Julian Glander. And there is a little excerpt here from my source on Animation Magazine that does explain a little bit about who he is and the way that he actually created Boys Go to Jupiter, in which it states, premiered in the 2020... wait, is this actually the one? Yeah. Okay, never mind. I was worried. I was like, wait, oh, did I highlight the wrong thing? No. We're good. Premiered in the 2024 Tribeca Festival's Viewpoints section, Boys Go to Jupiter is Glander's feature directorial debut. A 3D artist, animator, and filmmaker, Glander has directed projects for Adult Swim, Disney, HBO Max, and Cartoon Network. His 3D illustrations frequently appear in the New York Times and New Yorker, and in 2019, he released the video game Art School, in which CH is replaced with a Q, which has since become a cult hit. Boys Go to Jupiter was self-produced and animated entirely over 90 days on the free open source 3D modeling program Blender. Which, fun fact, I believe it is also the same 3D modeling program that was used for the Oscar-winning animated feature Flow. Payson Yang Lazo executive produced. So this is a project in which a giant bulk of the production was actually done by Julian Glander himself. And when I do look at this, when I do look at this movie, it is honestly very fascinating. And one thing that it really gives me this strong vibe is that this really feels like modern indie. Like, this is the kind of thing that when you think about independent projects, not necessarily just about animation, you would think of something like this. And maybe this is a big part that's not just because of how the art style is done, how a lot of this was worked on just by one person, but I feel like especially with the cinematography, there's something about it that reminds me a lot of an indie game. It's just the way that the pictures that are framed, just the way that we look in this top view and we see like a lot of the landscapes, or we see a lot of like what's like on the ground, or just the way that it is framed. There's something about it that feels very much like you would see this like over here, like at the start of the trailer where you see the characters on their skateboard or on their bikes. It's just this top view, and everything is all diagonal, and it's not the only moment either. Like, you see a lot of these top views that are being used as well. It's very fascinating, and again, it gives off a lot of that video game vibe, and especially this is also the case with the color palette, in which that also reminds me very much of something that you would find in indie animation, where often those they would really go crazy with using their own color palettes, where it is very vibrant. And usually with a lot of these AAA games, especially from franchises, they stick to their own color palette that makes it familiar to their respective IPs. Rather it be some of the more realistic ones where it's a lot more mute and a lot less saturated. And then you got some of the more cartoony ones, like some of the Nintendo ones, like with Mario or Pokemon and stuff like that, where the colors, like, they go a little extra in terms of their saturation, but at the same time, they could sometimes stick to their simple colors. But here, though, with Boys Go to Jupiter, there's something about it that feels like it's a little bit more tropical, especially with the way that they highlight a lot of like the pinks and the oranges. It feels very much like, it has that indie sensibility. It wants to go with its own vibe with the color palette, and something that, well, I guess the timing is actually perfect. It's very similar to summer, it's giving off like major summer vibes there. But at the same time, it does feel fascinating with the way that, at least from what I'm seeing with this trailer, it does help out with the it does help out a little bit with the storytelling, in which the way that it is presented, it's very much like something that is slice of life. Like, yeah, there are going to be a few things that, they look very surrealistic. Like, there's even a moment where you see the main character like giving a drink to like this weird creature. I think it's like more closer to the end or something. Like, yeah, you get stuff like over here where he's fighting off some goo, or I don't know if I can find the like right over here. Like you would see moments like with a goo, or like you get close-ups of like stuff that looks like germs in a way. But still, though, like just from the vibe that I am getting, I know I keep saying vibe a lot, but just the feeling that I'm getting, at least in terms of the storytelling, it's very much something that feels like a slice of life kind of thing, almost similar to something like Wes Anderson, with the kind of approach, with the kind of directing. There's something about it that feels like, there's a bit of that Wes Anderson influence that they put onto it. And that's not a criticism at all. I think it does add to the charm. Like that spirit of Wes Anderson also applies onto what I'm seeing so far with Boys Go to Jupiter, and it's actually pretty nice. And honestly, I would be interested to actually check it out. Like, it does have my curiosity, but I will say though that if you want to go and catch it, the screenings are pretty limited. It is going to, or at least according to my source on Animation Magazine, it's going to start off by having its premiere on August 8th in New York at the IFC Center. And then a week later, it will be premiering in Los Angeles at the Lamley Glendale, again on August 15th, which then following afterwards, it will be doing a little bit of a tour around the U.S. in some of the major cities, including Seattle, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, San Diego, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, St. Louis, and many more. But still, though, I do hope that maybe one day it can get a wider release. It does look like something that might pique some interest for people, and I could definitely see a lot of great potential with what they have here. So that's why I figured, you know what, might as well share with you all just to have you get a little bit of knowledge and just to be aware of this movie's existence in case we hear more about it in the future. So if you are in any of those cities during the time that Boys Go to Jupiter will be on, then honestly, give it a watch and let me know what you think on that. But speaking of letting me know what you think, I think it is time that we go and pass this on to the chat wall. And now I want to ask, what do you all think of the trailer that we have seen of Boys Go to Jupiter? Were you guys impressed by what you have seen? Do you have any criticisms you would like to express? Are there some things you would like to know more about? Let me know what you all think. In fact, let's make it a little more interactive. And I'm going to go and actually make a poll here. And I'm going to go and actually make a more interactive here. And write to Twitch and actually make a more interactive here. And I'm going to go and actually make a more interactive here. And write to Twitch and actually make a more interactive here. Yes, like down. No. And now we'll see what you all have to say. And now we'll see what you all have to say. And now, oh my goodness, has that been on this whole time? What the fridge? Or, okay, no, was it like only a one-time thing? I just want to go and, oh, has it been? Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, it just started. Okay, good. I was worried if during this whole time that I started that suddenly like, oh, the echo has been happening. No, I just opened up Twitch on my page and then suddenly I guess the audio didn't mute itself, so suddenly it just reactivated, and I guess that's where the reverberations came in. I'm sorry for that little oopsie right there, people. Okay, hopefully like we're back to normal. Everything is fine. So, all right. Anyways, let's get back to what you have to say right over here. Okay, let's see. So, this is what interdimensional television looks like. But for real, this looks really unique. The whole thing has a lot of the same ilk as Art School through its art style. And while I haven't played that game, this does look like something I might enjoy. I definitely need to check it out whenever I have the chance. But do I pop an edible while watching? It looks like a cinematic drug high, and I'm all for it. I mean, I guess that is optional if you want to go and have that enhancement while you go and watch it. But I think with the psychedelia that they are presenting in the movie, it might not be necessary. Just by watching the movie, you might already get a high on that. All right. Anyways, let's see here. I'll give it that this film is kind of gorgeous to look at. Also, the title is quite amazing. Boys from Jupiter, or technically it is Boys Go to Jupiter. Hopefully I'll make it to the premiere in LA soon. Also planning to see Forever Green later this month. That was made by current Disney animation folks. Yeah, I did hear about Forever Green. I didn't fully check into it, but I did hear a little bit about that feature. I should actually go and look up a little bit more about what it's all about. You know, you got my curiosity on that one as well. Okay, any other comments? Just want to go and double check if anybody else has anything to go and say. All right, this definitely looks interesting. As far as indie projects go, this definitely has potential. Visually, it's really nice, and I feel this definitely defines what indie animation can be. So overall, it has potential. All right, very nice. Let's see, any other comments? Because it doesn't look like there is as much. Like, people are saying that it looks interesting. Let's see. Okay, I'll go and read one more at this point. So this is what interplanetary animation looks like. A bunch of simplistic shapes, like everyone's head is a perfect ball, but I might need a drug on my end, and as it looks like they got some psychedelic crap in it. Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. And by the way, it looks like with most of you, you seem to be quite interested in actually checking out what Boys Go to Jupiter has to offer, in which 88% of you who have voted said that yes, you would be interested in checking out Boys Go to Jupiter. So that is definitely a positive sign. And again, I do hope that one day Boys Go to Jupiter can be a little bit more accessible for people to go and see, because honestly, there's already a bunch of interest there. So why just limit yourself to just some of the cities to go and have, like, a select, like a limited run in terms of its theatrical release. So I don't know. Hopefully, maybe I'm just rambling on, but hopefully more people will go and check it out. And again, if you are in New York, then keep in mind that the movie will be coming out on August 8th. And if you are in LA, it will be premiering on August 15th. All right, so with that said, now that we are done with Boys Go to Jupiter, let's go ahead and have our first break, as we will go and relax ourselves and wash off some of the psychedelics that we have experienced. And then when we do come back, we're going to go into, I guess you could say, some mainstream psychedelics, as this other trailer is about to bring us back to the wonderful world of Dr. Seuss. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next trailer, we are going to look far ahead into the future. Now, I know that we just crossed the halfway point of 2025, but now it is time that we are going to go and check out what's going to be in store in 2026. Now, granted, we already did get a little bit of a taste of what's in store with Shrek 5, but that's going to be at the end of next year. But at this point, we're already beginning to have some trailers of what's going to be with the movies in 2026, at least somewhere in the start of it. And yes, animation is also coming in with their trailers of what's in store there as well. Especially with this one in particular, that hopes to make a great comeback for this beloved franchise, at least in terms of their great comeback on the big screen. And who better to go and initiate that than with the mascot of this IP? So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for the upcoming Warner Brothers animation, or their new title, I believe, is Warner Brothers Pictures animation movie, The Cat in the Hat. And that is the new adaptation of The Cat in the Hat, to which it will be coming soon to theaters on February 27th. Now, I might as well go and start off with the positives of what I have to say about this trailer with what we have seen, because I'll just say right now, there's a lot that I have to say about this trailer that came out. And there are some things that I actually do like. Like, number one, I do get with what they're going with the art style, and it's actually pretty cool, where you kind of have these dueling styles that are happening at the same time, where One, you have something that's a little bit more traditional in terms of the, well, okay, maybe not. Maybe that's not the best look of it. But here, well, let's have a... well, might as well have a close-up shot of the cat here. But the thing is that when cat is in the real world, it's a lot more like a traditional computer animated feature where the textures are a lot more pronounced and a lot, and everything is more just the typical 3D environment that you would go and expect in a computer animated film like this. But then afterwards, or at least actually technically beforehand, when you go in the Seussical world, that one is a lot more stylized. This is actually something that is more reminiscent to what you would find in a children's book. Maybe not necessarily the same art style as the Cat in the Hat or Dr. Seuss in general, but basically what you see here is that the textures are almost gone, and now it's just going with a more cell shaded look where the colors are a lot more pronounced, not to mention that the colors are a lot more vibrant in the Seussical world. Now, I will say that speaking of designs, it is true that there is a part of it that kind of reminds me a lot of The Boss Baby, where you have the initial designs of the characters, including the cat, including the kids, and including all the other fantastical characters, that they have this look that is meant to be a lot more cutesy, a lot more round, and a lot more child-friendly. And I mean, there's also the fact that in the Cat in the Hat's world, when you do see how things work, like it is kind of like this big office building, and you see everybody just doing their business. So of course there's something about it that just feels like it's it's very reminiscent to the art style that we have seen with The Boss Baby, but it does have a little bit of its own flavor. So in terms of how it's playing with styles for the story that they want to go and provide, I think that's actually pretty cool. And then there is also the factor of the Cat in the Hat himself. With the way that this movie or this trailer is kind of presenting it, we're also kind of seeing the origin story of the Cat in the Hat, or we're learning a lot more about who Cat in the Hat is. We're seeing his backstory, we're seeing where he works, we're seeing like, why is he so wacky? Why is he so over the top? What is his purpose? And all that kind of stuff. And honestly, in terms of that, I am down to see and learn more about who Cat is and, something to really play up with the world building. That, honestly, I am down to go and actually check out. So I will give it, from this trailer that we have seen, it does present us with some potential, especially in terms of how it plays with the visuals and in terms of how it conceptually wants to grow the Cat in the Hat as a character. But at the same time, though, man, does it feel like another Hollywood movie. This really feels like it is another piece of Dr. Seuss that is completely manufactured by Hollywood. And there's just so much about it that it really feels like it is completely made just to be like another kids film made in Hollywood, no differently than what we have gotten with some of the past adaptations, like with the live action Universal movies, like with Ron Howard's How the Grinch Stole Christmas and the infamous Mike Myers Cat in the Hat, and also with the Illumination movies with the Lorax and their version of the Grinch. And speaking of Illumination, by the way, that's kind of the feeling that I've been getting throughout this trailer. It really gives off that sense that it really wants to be like Illumination, that in a way, even though this is from Warner Brothers, they want to go and try to copy the formula of what we have already gotten with stuff like the Lorax and 2018's Grinch. And that is especially prominent with right at the end, like after we see the title of the Cat in the Hat, and then suddenly with the things. Like it's not just thing 1 and thing 2 now. Now they got a whole arsenal of things that they want to go and present, and they all come in different shapes and sizes. This is basically the same thing that we have gotten with all the stuff that Illumination has done, especially with the Minions. And one thing it reminds me so much of is the bears from the Lorax. You remember when the Lorax wants to have their own minions, so they have like a whole array of like little teddy bear characters, and you got this like really small one that's supposed to be like really cute and stuff like that. That's essentially what I feel like we have gotten with this version of Cat in the Hat. Now they got all the different things that they had, now there's like a wide variety of different number of things that are here. And honestly, like I just noticed now that we have yet to actually see where thing 2 might be. So we don't know what they look like. But essentially, like it's hard not to think that they really want to be like Illumination, especially with all the different things that now they're going to be the next Minions. And another thing I gotta say that really turns me off from this trailer here is the comedy. I'm sorry, but the comedy blows in this. My God, it's rare that I could find anything that would actually feel like it is funny. I think the most that I would say is like kind of amusing is actually right at the start when Cat was about to open this thing, he was about to open this box that would say do not open, and then like afterwards he'll keep opening it and just ignore the signs like one by one.
Do not open.
Come on, that's just a suggestion.
Stop it. No, don't.
Like, okay, that one, it's like, all right, it's cute. I can see a bit of potential with that. But everything else, though, honestly, it's like, they're grown worthy. They are not good in terms of their comedy. And especially, like, with some of the ones, it feels like it's questionable why they would go and put it on this trailer. Like, okay, sure. Like there are some things that you want to go and present the world of Dr. Seuss. You want to present Cat's personality. You want to see how the story is modernized and stuff like that. But out of everything that they shown in this trailer, why the fridge did it spend so much time to go and give us this moment?
Too far.
Did you say toot fart?
I did not. I said too far.
Toot fart?
Too.
Why? Why is it that it is so necessary that we need to have that toot fart joke in this trailer? Like, what is it that makes people say like, oh, we gotta have this. It's gonna be like a true knockout. Kids love fart. Kids love the word toot. So we need to go and implement the toot fart joke in this. I want to know. Like, I really want to know who is it in the marketing team at Warner Brothers when they saw that moment or when they read it in the script that they see that and they're like, this needs to be in the trailer. We cannot have this Cat in the Hat trailer unless we put in the toot fart joke. This is an opportunity to give audiences an amazing first impression, to let them know that this is going to be the next phenomenon. This is going to be our billion-dollar hit. And the thing to go and emphasize that is that we have a toot fart joke. We need to make sure that is our top priority. Make sure that thing is fully animated. Make sure all the actors have recorded their lines on it. We must have toot fart by any means necessary. And make sure that we put it out stupidly early, like over half a year, so that people are fully aware and that they'll have so much time to build up their anticipation when they will finally get to see Toot Fart in its entire context in The Cat in the Hat. Like, who the freak said that? Honestly, it's honestly ridiculous, the things that they are presenting in this trailer. And I don't mean necessarily the things like in the end of the trailer, you know, like thing 1 and thing 3 and thing whatever. So yeah, honestly, I gotta say that with this trailer that we got, honestly, it's like, it's conflicting, but at the same time, I lean in more towards the negative side than it is the positive. I mean, I hope that I am wrong in terms of the negative aspect of it, and that maybe the movie itself could turn out to be much better than what we have seen in this trailer. And I will give it, again, there are some good things that you could go and find in this. I do like with how they play the different styles with the animation, and I also do like the idea of expanding the Cat in the Hat character. But when it comes to everything else, when it comes to the execution, when it comes to the comedy of this, it just feels like this is just Warner Brothers trying way too hard to be like Illumination. That's pretty much what it feels like, honestly. It's a mock Illumination movie. At least that's the vibe that I've been getting in this trailer. So again, I wish I could be proven wrong on this, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm mostly mixed, but maybe a little bit more on the negative side. At least that's just my opinion from what we have gotten with this trailer. And if you are curious to know more about what's going to be in store with this Cat in the Hat movie, then keep in mind it's going to be coming out next year on February 27th. And with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about this Cat in the Hat trailer that we have seen? Are you guys a lot more impressed than I was? Are you guys fully optimistic to go and check it out? Or are you guys a little bit more negative and you felt like this is more cringe than it is actually pretty good? In fact, let me go and actually ask you all on Twitch if I may go and make a poll to go and answer that question. So let's see here. Hold on a sec. There we go. Did you like the trailer of the Cat in the Hat? So I'll go and write down yes, and then I'll write down no, and we'll see what the result is right here. All right, so oh boy, wow, there's a lot of comments going on. Let's see. It's certainly striking. The magic is there. The animation has Nimona flair. I'm not sold on the story, direction, or jokes. It panders a bit to the young gen alpha folks. But after Mike Myers' awful display, I feel like it will be at least okay. We'll see if it's good after all before long. And if it's really good, it will prove Zaslav wrong. Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be all those comments that are going to go and compare this to the Mike Myers movie, which honestly, I have a little bit of an issue with that, mainly because, well, number one, for those people who are going to go and say, well, it's better than the Mike Myers movie. I mean, number one, that's not a major obstacle to go and conquer. You know, that's not a difficult thing to do. In fact, you would have to try more so than not if you want to make a movie that is worse than the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat. So in that regard, I don't think that's much of an accomplishment in the first place. And two, that doesn't necessarily change that so far from what we have gotten, it doesn't leave out a good first impression. At least it doesn't give out a good first impression for me, at least. So the thing is, even if the movie does come out bad, technically that would count as still being better than the Mike Myers movie. So I just want to go and state that. All right, let's see what we got here. What other comments? Dr. Seuss film adaptations are real hit and miss to me. This film might be a hit or miss too. I do like the animation and some of the ideas they present so far, but other than that, nothing else really stands out for me. I still would like to give it a chance, and maybe this film could prove me wrong. But as of now, I'm really uncertain if I want to pay and see it. Exactly. And honestly, I kind of feel the same way as well. It's just like, I want to be proven wrong. I know I'm sounding pretty cynical, but I want to be proven wrong. And hopefully by the time I do go see it, it would actually be a pleasant surprise. But I think this trailer here kind of set my expectations a little bit low. Let's see what other comments. This looks fine. Cute movie, but not really that interesting. I do like the opening gag, but still, I'm sure it'll be okay. Better than the live action movie, but that's not a high bar to reach. I think I'll stick with Hoppers, Toy Story 5, and Legend of Aang. Fair enough. All right, let's see. I didn't know what to expect, and I know this isn't a high bar, but at least it looks better than the Mike Myers film. Some of the jokes are a little generic, even if I got a couple of chuckles, but the animation looks great, especially where in the cat world, it's very Nimona chic. It's a mixed bag so far, but it does have me wondering, is this connecting to the SNL skit where Bill Hader plays the cat going through a divorce? And most importantly, is that how Hader got the job? That could be an interesting question, honestly. And by the way, there is something I want to go and comment, but it looks, well, I will say the poll is pretty interesting because many of you guys that are on Twitch, you seem a bit more optimistic, at least more optimistic than I am, in which 61% of you have voted yes, while 39% have actually said no. So very interesting. So a little bit mixed, but some of you are actually a bit more positive. And not to mention, now going back to the comment that I just read, yes, some people have made some comparisons to Nimona, and that's very interesting actually because the animation that is done here, it is from the same studio that actually did the visuals of Nimona, specifically D-Neg Animation. They were the ones who actually did work on The Cat in the Hat, I believe. You could correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it does explain a lot in terms of the comparisons of why it looks a lot like Nimona, especially when you're in the cat world. All right, let's go and read some more comments here because, oh boy, do many of you have a lot to say. All right. Hey, AniMat, great content as usual. I have a question. In your opinion, what's been the worst animated film of 2025 so far? You know what? That is a very, well, okay, I know this is a bit of a side note, but that is a very interesting question. I will say, so far, I don't think we've gotten any bad animated movies. But if there is one, I guess you could say it's Sneaks. Like that, the Talking Shoe movie, I guess that would count as the worst one so far, but who knows? I mean, I think we're gonna have to wait until the Smurfs movie does come out before like we can have any confirmation on that. All right. Anyways, let's see. The animation does look fantastic with its changing styles depending on the world, but I'm unsure about the decision to go and do an original story instead of adapting the book, and the humor feels a little too modern. Exactly. Honestly, like with the humor, like you could describe it as modern, but I think that plays a very significant factor into why I'm feeling like this feels more like a Hollywood movie than a Dr. Seuss adaptation. So that does explain a lot of things. Let's see, what are the comments? While I don't mind Warner Brothers making another Cat in the Hat movie and that Toot fart joke, but I will say it's surprisingly decent. The animation is pretty good and gives off some Nimona vibes, and Bill Hader pulled off an amazing performance as the cat himself. I did enjoy the bit with the bit where it's almost like Porky Pig, right? I do like the bit where the bit. Anyways, sorry about that. The cat says hi to other characters that share his name, I'll bet thing that rhymes with which animal, giving that movie some lore. And then there are more things than thing 1 and thing 2. All right, so we got someone who is more optimistic about it. Awesome. Let's see now. Matt, prior to the CG and live action adaptations of his works during the late 90s, don't forget that he did 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T from Columbia Pictures with Hans Conried from the early 50s. Oh, yes, I do remember that. And by the way, actually, if you want to learn more about that movie, 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, there is one video I highly recommend you go and check out. You probably remember my old friend Morgan Ledger with his series Vaulting. He actually made a whole video about that movie. So if you want to learn more about that, go check out his video. I highly recommend it. All right, I think I have time for at least 2 more comments. So let's see what we got here. I did talk about it on my channel. All I could say about the trailer is that it's okay-ish. Could have been worse than Smurfs. This one did have some solid voice acting by Bill Hader since he was the cat in SNL. Kind of like that. Kind of like the animation and the art style changes where the cat goes to the real world. That's a nice touch, but overall, it's just bad. Maybe the movie will be good, but I'll keep low expectations. All right, fair enough. All right, so one more comment to go and read. So, yeah, I think I'll go with this one. I may be the outlier here, but I find the trailer really cute. The visuals look like eye candy. Bill Hader does a solid job as the cat, and I dare say even better than Mike Myers. And Thing 3 is adorable. I don't got a lot to say on it, honestly, but I hope WB does the cat justice after Universal fumbled it. The 2003 movie is a guilty pleasure of mine. All right, interesting. So, there are some people out there who are more optimistic, who are more hopeful. And, I'll say on my end, yeah, maybe I am a little bit more cynical with what we have seen, but I want to be proven wrong. I am hoping that this could actually turn out to be a pleasant surprise. But I will say with what the trailer has presented, it did set my expectations kind of low, honestly. But who knows? Maybe this could turn out good. Maybe this could turn out bad. But we will wait and see when the movie does come out next year on February 27th. All right, so now we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, oh boy, is it time to get into some controversy. And we're going to go back into the present where we will be discussing about one of the latest animated features and the messy production that happened behind the scenes. So stay tuned because we're going to get into some more Pixar drama. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, I'm just going to go and tell you right now that there is a lot to be discussed about this. In fact, I am considering that this is going to be a little bit of a two-parter, a story that is so big that I think it's going to require taking 2 segments of this episode to really go and fully discuss about this. And what I want to go and discuss is specifically about or at least one of the latest animated features that has been released, Pixar's Elio. And also, this is another thing that I want to go and get this out of the way, considering that I did release my review recently. But I just want to go and say that I personally enjoyed Elio. Now, I don't think that it is the best Pixar film out there, especially when there's a lot of problems when it comes to the story that I will get into later. But other than that, though, I think it is still very good. It is still very well made. And it has that great heart that we all know and love from Pixar. So personally, I enjoyed my time with Pixar's Elio, and I do hope that more people will eventually go see it, so that maybe one day it will have its following. Unfortunately, though, I don't think it's going to be happening anytime soon, because even though previously when I did talk about Elio, I was being more optimistic about it, hoping that maybe one day, maybe it will end up being like Elemental, where it could turn out to be a sleeper hit. But unfortunately, the chances of that happening are becoming less and less likely, and there's a stronger possibility that Disney and Pixar might end up taking the L on this, and Elio will unfortunately, or could unfortunately, end up becoming a box office bomb. If anything, if it wants to get a second chance, maybe it'll find it on Disney+, but that's going to be much later in the year. But with all said and done, this is not what I want to go and talk about. It's not about my thoughts on Elio, nor is it about how it's doing at the box office. It's specifically in regards to what happened during the production Elio, especially when it got into some hot water with this article right over here. This is from The Hollywood Reporter called Inside Elio's Catastrophic Path, America Ferrera's Exit, Director Change, and Erasure of Queer Themes. Now, I just want to go and state this right now. At first, this may seem like another clickbaity article that's just trying to cash in on the Disney and Pixar hate that really has been flourishing anytime Disney would go and release a brand new movie. But the more you go into it, the more that unfortunately it does make a lot of sense. And I'll even say that on my end, yeah, honestly, I'm not really that surprised about it, mainly because we kind of gotten a hint already that things were not going great with the production of Elio. And I don't necessarily just mean about the big delay that it had, which I will go and explain like a big reason as to why it occurred, considering that originally it was supposed to come out in March of 2024, but then got heavily delayed to June of 2025. So that's a delay of over a year. But also, you may remember last year when there was that IGN article in relation to Inside Out 2. And in that one, they also described how the production of that movie was just an absolute nightmare. And it even stated that the production of Elio did not go smooth. So it gave us a little bit of a hint of what was to come and revealing what we have gotten over here. Now, to give you a little bit of a summary, to do the best I can to go and explain this whole situation. Now, you may recall that originally this was supposed to be directed by Pixar veteran Adrian Molina. And he wanted to go and craft this to be a bit semi-autobiographical, where, you know, it's similar to what Hayao Miyazaki did recently with The Boy and the Heron, where it's based a little bit on his life, but of course there's a whole lot of fantastical elements. And during that production, things seemed to be going along just fine, but then there was one instance in particular where it just went off the rails, and that's when things got a little bit chaotic. And it's specifically in this part right over here. So let me just read you here from my source on The Hollywood Reporter, as it says here. The writing was first on the wall for the troubled production when the film from Molina, known as the co-director of Pixar's Oscar-winning 2017 hit Coco, conducted an early test screening in Arizona. Although viewers expressed how much they enjoyed the movie, they were also asked how many of them would see it in a theater, and not a single hand was raised, according to a source with knowledge on the event. This sounded the alarm bells for studio brass. So basically, there was that one screening in Arizona, just a test screening, to go and see how audiences would react, what do audiences think. And from there, even though they had a great time, they were all like, yeah, that was a great movie. That was actually very nice. All right, everybody. So, who here wants to go and see it in theaters when it's fully made? Do you want to? Or do you? So, yeah, that already started off as a massive problem for Pixar. And from there, the executives, including Pete Docter, had to go and have a talk with Molina and give him a lot of notes on what needed to go and be changed, which at that point, according to the animators and some of the Pixar staffers who did work on Elio, apparently around that point, or during the time when things like went AWOL, it was almost complete. Like, there was so much of it that was entirely done. In fact, they said that most of the movie was actually finished, but then suddenly that happened, and then Molina was given all these notes, and Pete Docter had to go and have a talk with him. And that's when Molina's mood completely changed. In fact, that was when suddenly there were more directors that got involved, where the creator of the Burrow short, Madeline Sharafian, she stepped in to be a director alongside Molina. But then Molina said, you know what? I don't think I'm in the mood to go and actually do it. And that's when he decided to go and leave production. Now, according to Pixar, they stated that Molina had to go and quit the movie because, well, he was going to be too busy since they switched jobs for him to go and work on the upcoming Coco 2. But that may not necessarily be the case. Even though Molina is still in Pixar, yes, he is working on Coco 2, but this is pretty much trying to say that Coco 2 is not the reason as to why Molina quit Elio or why he had to leave that production. And it was after that moment in which Turning Red director Domi Shi had to step in and help out Madeline in order to go and rework the entire picture. And from there, that really made a massive switch. That's when the mood of the production completely changed up. And that's when many animators and many people who have worked on Pixar quit Elio because they were that upset that Molina was let go. And there were a lot of these people that were very much attached to the original vision of what Molina had for that Elio movie. But what's also interesting on that note is that one person, or debatably the most prominent person, who actually quit production because Adrian Molina was no longer involved was actually America Ferrera. Now, when the project was first announced, Molina was originally going to be played as Olga, who is the caretaker of Elio. Originally supposed to be Elio's mom, but then in the final film, it was switched up to be Elio's aunt. And from there, Disney stated that it was just because of scheduling conflicts, but this one tells a little bit of a different story, in which I just need to go and find it. It's right over here, to which it states, some of Elio's changes were more noticeable than others. When the film was first announced at D23's fan event in 2022, America Ferrera took the stage to describe her role as Olga, Elio's mom. At the following D23 in 2024, the Emmy winner was announced having left the film amid scheduling conflicts, with Zoe Saldana joining the cast as Olga, now Elio's aunt. Sources tell THR that Ferrera had already recorded dialogue for the film, but that her decision to exit was attributed to Molina's departure. Not to mention that frequently being called back to re-record lines due to script changes likely took its toll. Says the former Pixar artist, America was upset that there was no longer Latinx representation in the leadership. And that's another thing that is worth noting. Yes, with Adrian Molina, he is Latinx or Hispanic, whichever is the more acceptable term. But because he left and then suddenly has been replaced by an Asian woman and a white woman, well, that representation is just thrown out the window, unfortunately. And America Ferrera ended up leaving the production because, again, it is no longer Adrian Molina's movie. But, of course, what is considered to be the most controversial change of them all is the fact that a lot of Elio's identity has sadly been removed. And as the title suggests, yes, there is a part where Elio would have been gay, or specifically they mentioned that it is queer-coded, in which I'll go and read you this part right over here. To which it states, if you bought a ticket to Elio and don't remember seeing anything that would be like related to why he has his little out of nowhere outfit, then it's not just that you chose the wrong time to refill your soda. According to multiple insiders who spoke to THR, Elio was initially portrayed as a queer-coded character, reflecting original director Adrian Molina's identity as an openly gay filmmaker. Other sources say that Molina did not intend the film to be a coming-out story, as the character is 11. But either way, this characterization gradually faded away throughout the production process as Elio became more masculine following feedback from leadership. Gone were not only such direct examples of his passion for environmentalism and fashion, but also a scene in Elio's bedroom with pictures suggesting a male crush. Hints at the trash fashion remains in the release film, with the boy wearing a cape decorated with discarded cutlery and soda can tabs, although without any explanation for the unusual attire. And from there, we also got some other quotes coming from the people who did work on the project, in which we also got we got this one right over here, in which it states, "I was deeply saddened and aggrieved by the changes that were made," says the former Pixar assistant editor Sarah Ligatich, who provided feedback during Elio's production as a member of the company's internal LGBTQ+ group Pix Pride. Although she praised Sharafian and she as filmmakers, Ligatich, sorry if it's a little bit hard to go and say her name, notes that a number of creatives working on the film stepped down after the directors shared their first cut of the movie. The exodus of talent after that cut was really indicative of how unhappy a lot of people were that they have changed and destroyed this beautiful work. Another Pixar source disputes that people stepped down in response to Molina's departure. Another went to go and state that it was pretty clear through the production of the first version of the film that studio leaders were constantly sanding down these moments in the film that alluded to Elio's sexuality of being queer. And there is another comment in which one person was very much upset and is angry at the final version of the picture, in which they state, "Suddenly, you remove this big key piece, which is all about identity, and Elio just becomes about totally nothing. The Elio that is in the theaters right now is far worse than Adrian Molina's best version of the original." In which another Pixar staffer went and commented, "The character Elio was just so cute and so much fun and had so much personality, and now he feels much more generic to me." But there is one thing that I want to go and comment, by the way. There is something in the article. They actually mentioned something very interesting. Because I know at this point, some people are going to be like, well, there goes Disney again. More of their LGBTQ+ erasure and not actually caring about LGBTQ+ stories and having that kind of representation in their movies. Of course they would go and do that. But here's the thing, though. This might not necessarily be Disney's fault. At least in the article here, they're suggesting that this is directly Pixar's fault, in which I want to go and try to find that, because honestly, it's actually a very interesting piece. Where is it though? Where is it? Oh, okay, yeah, I found it. It's actually right over here. In which, oh boy, there we go. In which it states here, "But did the decision to downplay Elio's queer themes actually come from the parent company? Insiders are not so sure. A lot of people like to blame Disney, but the call is coming from inside the house," says one of the artists. "A lot of it is obeying an advanced behavior coming from the higher execs at Pixar." The person cites such examples as next year's animated feature Hoppers having to tone down themes of environmentalism, and also reveals that a movie in early development got a startling note. That director was told, "You can't have divorce in this movie," which is so wild. A different source with knowledge on the project downplays the notion of this representing major meddling, and sees such suggestions as typical of any early development process, noting that there was no mandate prohibiting divorce. So the divorce thing, that's like, a whole side issue, and some are saying that it might not be a big deal. But what's very interesting is that it's not necessarily Disney's call that that they would go and try to take down that representation. It might directly be from Pixar initially, because as some people in the chat wall I've seen that they've alluded that they were just so traumatized of the whole controversy with Lightyear, with that one little kiss that has occurred. So with all that said, I will say that, yeah, it is, as someone who did enjoy Elio and thought it was a pretty solid film, it is disappointing to hear this whole production mess that did occur. And honestly, I feel like it very much answered a lot of questions as to some of the problems in terms of the story with Elio. And even though, like, as much as I did like it and I did put out a positive review, like, there are some things that I did notice where the problems that they were mentioning, it kind of does show in the movie itself. Like, one thing that I've noticed that it was kind of a problem is that I feel like there's kind of this big gap in the side story with Elio's clone and Olga, where I feel like we didn't see as much of what is going on in that plot line to show how Olga was kind of suspicious of the Elio clone if he's not actually Elio. There's kind of like that big piece that I feel like is kind of missing, and that there should have been like some kind of additional scene or two to show Olga's suspicion. So from there, like, yeah, I could see how there are some obvious pieces missing, and it's not just with Elio himself. And also, speaking of Elio, yeah, it's not surprising to hear that once again, they're trying to remove any of the queer codedness that Elio had before. Now, granted, I do want to go and state that we don't know if that is that much of a significant role, that maybe being gay is like a big part of Elio's personality, or it's just like a small little thing where they just put in small clues here and there. Because if you think back of what's been said in the Inside Out 2 article, the Pixar executives are just so they're just filled with paranoia in terms of any little hints of their characters being seen as gay, that they put in so much effort in Inside Out 2 to ensure that they say that Riley is not gay with anyone whatsoever. No, she has zero attraction to any girls. So I think it might be the same thing here, that there is a possibility that they want to make sure that there is no hints, there's no clues, there's no anything that would indicate that Elio might be gay or that he might be attracted to boys. Rather it be that little scene where they say that you see some pictures of cute boys that he might have a crush on, or even just his fashion sense, that he is more into fashion, which is often seen as feminine. So in terms of how much gay we would actually see in Elio, honestly, we don't know, but it doesn't really help Pixar's case that, once again, that they are doing more of queer, well, I don't want to say queer because, like, some people do interpret that as a slur, but of LGBTQ plus erasure. And I mean, not to mention, like, not just with Inside Out 2, but then we also got the controversy with Win or Lose, where it was such a massive hoopla where they would go and say that they completely erased one character's trans identity, in which, if you actually did see the movie, there is a little bit of that is there, but it's not as obvious per se. But yeah, the thing is that it's not really helping out Pixar's case, and it's not making them look good when they're trying to be very silent about LGBTQ plus representation, and they want to try to do the best they can in order to make it not exist whatsoever. But unfortunately, that is a factor that is unfortunately hurting Elio. That is a factor where it kind of screwed the story over. But granted, though, it is worth noting that even though things got pretty bad during the production, as they stated here, nobody has anything against the new directors with Domi Shi or Madeline Sharafian. In fact, like you probably have heard, some people, like even the people who are very much attached to what Elio was, like they were praising them, saying that they did the best they could under the crazy circumstances that they were under in. And honestly, that I absolutely agree. I think one of the best things about Elio is actually the directing, where it shows that they were doing the best they can in order to take a pretty bland story about the little white lie that we've often seen with films like Rango and Shark Tale and stuff like that. And then they would go and try to make the most out of it in order to give it some heart. In fact, this is going to be a very hot take, but I just got to say that this is, honestly, it's because of the great directing why I think Elio is a better movie than K-Pop Demon Hunters. I mean, they're both very solid features, but it's because of the fact that Elio has better directors, or at least I think Elio has better directors, that it gave the Pixar movie an upper hand compared to Sony's Netflix movie. But that is just me. But still, though, there is one thing I do want to go and comment, however, is just the fact that there are people who would go and mention that Elio became a movie about nothing. And that is something that I just want to go and say that I disagree with. I mean, it's not about nothing, because in Elio, one thing that I really do love about it is that it's a movie about, are we alone? It's about that big question, not just in regards to, are there any aliens out there? Are we the only planet with living beings in this universe? You know, there is that big question, but at the same time, it's also looking internally about loneliness. And I think that's one of the things that really got to me, and honestly, why I really enjoyed this feature. But then again, I will say, though, I don't blame the people, I don't blame the former Pixar staffers that they're upset about it. I do understand that, they worked on the original Molina version. They really put in their heart into it. They really loved that version. So, and especially like working on it for like months on end, maybe years, and then suddenly see that completely taken away from them and replaced with something a little bit different. I do understand why they are upset. Like, honestly, like I disagree with the statement that it's about nothing, but I don't blame them for how they feel because of how they were attached to that original vision. Now, I'm just going to go and say this now. We're going to go onto a break just to go and refresh the ads. But when we do come back, though, there is a part 2 that I would like to go and discuss. And that is in regards to Adrian Molina's original vision. And I actually do have, now this doesn't necessarily represent everything of what could have been Elio, but this is a significant portion that I do want to show you, and we'll see for ourselves if this version, this Adrian Molina version of Elio, is actually better or not compared to what we have ultimately gotten. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, for this part here, for this little part 2 of this story, this is actually from a little interaction that I had with another animation fan, in which we talked back and forth a little bit about Elio. And this was back during the heat of the controversy when everybody was upset of the LGBTQ plus erasure of Elio and stuff like that. And he mentioned to me, I remember that he wanted to discuss about what he had seen before about what was the original ending of Elio. Now, I know at the most, in terms of what we have publicly seen of what that original Adrian Molina version of what we had, at the most, it was just the teaser trailer that was released, the one that was promoted to have come out for March or spring of 2024. But this one in particular is actually a little bit more different. So we talked about the ending of Elio and what was the original ending that was planned, in which it was actually leaked in a way. And we were discussing about, was Adrian Molina's version better though? Would it have actually improved the movie? Or I don't know. And that's why I wanted to go and take that discussion that we had, and I want to bring this to you. I want to know what you think with what we're about to see, because this is actually from a Reddit article in which it actually presented some leaks, not from the movie, but specifically from the book, The Art of Elio, in which they actually showed some pictures of what would have been the original ending of Elio. Now, there's going to be a lot to go and describe what's going on here. So allow me to go and present to you what we have with these pictures. Now, to give you some context, if you have seen Elio, then you probably recall that a way to go and actually explain how no one would be the wiser on Elio being outside of Earth and having his little space adventure with Glorden and the other aliens is that he would go and create a clone of himself, and he would send that clone down to Earth so that he could fool everybody else, including his Aunt Olga, while he's doing his own thing in space. But where things are different is what happens on Earth with the Elio clone, or as this actually describes here, the other Elio. Because in the Adrian Molina version, the Elio clone would eventually become the villain, or at least become the villain during the climax. Because where it becomes different is how the Elio clone behaves in the military camp that that Olga would go and send him to. And from there, of course, he would do the best he can in order to be, the best in his class, or the best amongst his peers and stuff like that. He would get like a whole bunch of different badges, and that he would make sure everything is organized. He would present himself as the ideal student. But over time, however, socially, it would just not be great. He would be very much overwhelmed with the kind of emotions that he would be getting. And soon, the clone version would just evolve more as a monster. He would just become monstrous, and he would just be destroying the camp and just be ready to go and destroy the world, because of how he's just overwhelmed by emotions. And in this page here, there is a little bit of a description in which I'll just go and quickly read you here, in which it states, Elio's alien twin, Other Elio, transforms into a monster at the end of the film. In the reels, this sequence was consistently the most emotional moment for me. The transformation happens because Other Elio is feeling scared and confused. These are strong emotions for anyone, but even more so for a young person. I really wanted whatever Elio was going to transform into feel like a direct symbol of what he was feeling. The design came from trying to find a thing that could be just as flexible, fluid, and strong as our emotions can be. And this is from Matt Nolte, Titletic. I don't know how to say that, honestly. But yeah, that is a quote from Matt Nolte. So as you can see, this is where Elio, during the climax, or the Elio clone, would suddenly become a monster and would just be ravaging all around the camp. So the climax would actually be occurring on Earth instead of the communiverse. And we also got this section here where we do see some storyboards, and this is from the medal ceremony, where this was supposed to be Alien Elio's big moment, but because he was just so overwhelmed by emotions, we see that the real Elio does come back to try to solve this entire situation. And as we see this evil Elio just on this rampage, just destroying trees, just destroying everything, the way that the real Elio would try to go and confront the situation is by giving him a hug. to go and give the Elio clone a hug to say that everything is okay. And this would be like the big moment where we see the two Elios giving each other a hug, which is very much a symbolism of self-acceptance. And from there, Elio has saved the world and has saved everyone who was there. Now that was the original ending that was planned for Elio. And probably this was Adrian Molina's original version of what they wanted to do at the end. And I'll just go and say right now that, yes, a lot of people are pretty much mentioning and making a lot of comparisons. One that is very much obvious is in relation to Steven Universe. And I actually, and some people are even mentioning the ending of Nimona, but I feel like Steven Universe is actually a more direct comparison because I actually do have that clip. So if we could just go and keep that ending in mind, and let's just go and see the clip of Steven Universe that is very similar. So this is pretty much almost identical to what was described with the original ending of Elio, in which you got this pink Elio, this pink Steven clone, and when Steven himself was about to confront it, he decided to go and give that clone a hug. And that, again, you got this big symbolism of self-acceptance, of self-love, and again, to go back into what was described in that Hollywood Reporter article, it's about not just self-acceptance, but it's also about loving your identity, where there is that big identity factor that plays into the moral of those respective scenes. So you do have those comparisons. And by the way, honestly, it was easy to find that clip, considering that was the one where in Steven Universe, that was the one where James Baxter actually animated that moment where the animation was just so beautifully fluid and the emotions came out very strong. Amazing work that he has done in that particular scene. But as you can see, there is that so there was that massive comparison that you could tell from the two. And there is honestly another one that I want to go and compare. And a lot of people, of course, they are mentioning Nimona, where, there is that element of an identity. But there's also another one that it does remind me of. It's actually, funny enough, Ralph Breaks the Internet. For those of you who have seen it, maybe you do recall when at the end of that film, like the big climax that occurred is when all those, the insecure Ralph viruses, they all come together to create this giant monstrous Ralph. And he would go and try to destroy the internet, like wherever he would go, and filling the internet with this one massive virus that could destroy everything, just to go and find Vanellope, because he's just fueled by his insecurity. And it's up for the real Ralph to go and actually confront the giant evil Ralph by confronting his own insecurities and apologizing to Vanellope, and from there, ultimately saving the internet. Again, kind of a little bit of a similar comparison to what we have over here in terms of confronting your insecurities and being comfortable with your, maybe not necessarily confronting your identity, but more like the insecurities factor. I think it's kind of like a combination of Nimona and Ralph Breaks the Internet, where Nimona is a factor of being comfortable with your identity after getting a lot of hate from others just for being who you are. And then you got Ralph Breaks the Internet, which is confronting your own insecurities, to be comfortable with the possible changes that are occurring all around you, and just accepting what's going on and that you'll be fine no matter what would go and happen. Now, at this point here, You might be wondering, though, what is it that I think compared to the actual ending that we got with Elio? And I'm going to be very honest with you all. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to go and express my opinion just yet because, again, the movie is still fresh out in theaters, and I still believe that you should go and check it out whenever you can. So that is why I am going to ask you, if you want to know how that ending is compared to what we ended up getting, well then, that is up to you. That is up to your own conclusion, where you would go and describe, or you try to think for yourself, if you believe the ending we ended up getting, if it's either better or worse than the ending of what would have been with Adrian Molina. So yes, that does include that, that does involve you going to actually go and watch Elio to go and determine that for yourself. But regardless of what the situation may be, I'm just going to go and say this. I do understand the frustrations that do come out of it, and it's unfortunate that it's not that surprising that we have heard about this news. In fact, I'm just going to go and say this right now. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be another article that would discuss about some production controversies in relation to their next movie, Hoppers. It honestly sucks that it does happen, but again, it shouldn't go and stop you from watching the movie or even enjoying the movie. If you could still enjoy something like Inside Out 2 or Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, despite their controversies that happened in their production, don't let that stop you from going to see Elio or enjoy Elio. But I do agree that it sucks that it happens, and it is unfortunate that they did remove some parts, such as the queer-codedness of Elio and some of the plot descriptions. So yeah, I do feel sorry for the people who worked on the original vision. I do feel sorry for Adrian Molina, but hopefully things can work out for the best, hopefully with Adrian Molina and for those people who worked on the original Elio, that they can go and move on to whatever other projects that they can go and do. But yeah, honestly, it's just that, even as a fan of the Elio movie, like what we ended up getting, it's unfortunate that this even happened in the first place. Now, with that said, now it is time that I can finally go and pass this on to you. What do you all think about this whole controversy? How do you feel about some of the things that Pixar did go and remove, including the LGBTQ plus representation? And if you have seen Elio, by the way, if you have seen the movie, I would like to know, what do you think, if you preferred the ending we ended up getting or the original ending that Adrian Molina, or what it would have been? I would like to know what you think on that. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go and make a poll on this. And this is specifically for those who have actually seen it. So let me just go and create a little bit of a poll just to see which had the better ending for Elio. So I'm going to say, let's see, the original ending by Molina, actually, let me go and write the deleted original. Hold on a sec, just need to write that correctly. Or, in the action, or the final movie. There we go. So let's go and put that poll up, and let's see what you have to say about this. Okay. I enjoyed Elio, but I wasn't expecting the production trouble on the film to be quite bad. When they first delayed it back in 2023, I first thought that Pixar didn't like the third act and want to change it, but I wasn't expecting this. Part of me would like to see the original cut of Elio to see which is best. I hope when the film does come out on home media, we could see glimpses of that cut as deleted scenes. Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, like, I feel like nowadays, in terms of like DVDs and Blu-rays, Pixar is kind of like a little bit lacking, unfortunately. I mean, like, with the at least with the Inside Out 2 Blu-ray and 4K and stuff like that we have gotten, honestly, I can't help but feel like it's a little bit weak compared to like some of the other ones, because like Pixar used to be like top tier when it comes to the stuff that they would release with their Blu-rays. Like it was at the point where they would be like one Blu-ray is for the movie and another one would be for bonus features. So I don't know. I'm hoping that they'll, supply some of the good stuff with the Elio Blu-ray. All right. Let's see what else we got here. All right. What? You mean that Lightyear flopped because it was a bad movie that nobody wanted and not because it has lesbians in it? Color me surprised. In all seriousness, though, I mean, just saying, I kind of liked it. I kind of like the Lightyear movie. So anyways, it's more complicated, but that's like a whole other story. Well, not because of my opinion, but why Lightyear flopped. In all seriousness, though, Elio is a good movie, but I could see it could have been so much better. Still, I hope this is a teaching moment for Disney and Pixar where they learn that they don't need to remove LGBTQ plus elements from their movies to make them successful. Incredibles 2 was gayer than Lightyear, and that made over $1 billion. Good question. Wait, I'm trying to think. This is like, when was there a gay moment in Incredibles 2? Like, I'm trying to remember. Is it with some of the other heroes? Like, honestly, it's hard for me to remember. I would have to go and rewatch it. I mean, inevitably, I'll have to rewatch Incredibles 2, like when Incredibles 3 does come out in the next few years. But I don't know. Like, we'll see. Anyways, let's see what other comments are there. I enjoyed Elio, but I wasn't expecting the production trouble on the film to be quite bad. When they first delayed it back in 2020... Oh, no, did I? Oh, no, sorry. I think I read that. Sorry about that. Anyways, let's see here. Oh, man, I feel really bad for Molina. I thought they just gave him Coco 2 as a makeup thing. I like Elio, and I feel bad for Molina. Never got to finish his movie, and they had to start all over. I feel like a more hurtful version of the Spider-Verse, though I know right-wing grifters will take this as a win because of the gay Mexican man isn't making a child gay, and some grooming the kids and blah, blah, blah. I figured Elio was going to be gay because of how personal these stories are. Yeah, honestly, it is unfortunate. But I will say, just on a side note, we did get a result on the poll, and very surprisingly, those of you who have voted, 88% have said that in the final movie, what we have actually gotten is actually a better ending than what was the original version that Molina may have intended. So that is actually some very interesting results right there, not gonna lie. All right, so let's see here. Unfortunately, it seems like self-censorship is becoming an even bigger problem than before, especially with Trump becoming even more senile than before. At the same time, however, in this specific case, I kind of have to ask if Adrian Molina's vision was actually great or not, because based on what little that I've read thus far, it somewhat looked unfocused, especially that ending. Like, the ending that we got feels like it has a better alien theme focus. Yeah, honestly, I can see where you're coming from. And the thing is that, like, and this is from what I've discussed with my buddy, that in terms of the ending, like, if you feel like the ending that we got with Elio is way better than the original version, that's perfectly fine. And I'm just saying right now, you could think that there's a strong possibility that the movie we ended up getting is much better than the possible Molina version, and be upset of a lot of the LGBTQ plus erasure. You could be upset, like, you could think both of these at the same time. That's perfectly fine. Anyways, let's see. Well, I haven't seen Elio for myself. Do so, man. It's a solid movie. It is saddening that the movie's production is way more chaotic than we thought it was. It reminds me a lot of what happened with last year in Inside Out 2. Pixar really managed their productions for their upcoming movies. It's kind of sad that Elio is not having strong legs at the box office like Elio. Let's hope nothing bad happens to Hoppers. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see on that. But considering that, if I remember correctly, that thing is going to be coming out in March. You could correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, considering it's going to be out and there might be some competition ahead, including Project Hail Mary, it's just, I don't know. Like it's going to be a matter of a wait and see kind of thing. But yeah, it's just, it's, in terms of like the future of Pixar's success, at least the ones that are not their sequels, like it can be unpredictable now. All right, let's see what we got here. Well, things are getting hectic these days at Pixar, haven't they? Forgive me on my bad theory, but it's like everything these days, since now they just censor their work. It's something I've noticed with Disney television animation can their shows. They all have an LGBTQ plus theme implemented in some episodes, and from that incident of Moon Girl band episode, doesn't seem like a coincidence, even after Lightyear and Inside Out 2 did that thing. Not to bring this up, but you think this might make a part 2 for your Sony editorial? It is an interesting idea. I never thought of that, but that could be an idea. Like, I mean, we will see. Like, we'll see with more developments that may come, because let's be honest, at this point, like, it is still an ongoing story, and I want to hear what did happen in Hopper's first before I would go and look into that. But let's have a wait and see moment. But I'm not gonna lie, that's not a bad idea. That does have potential. Let's see. What other comment that I could go and read? With such an overhaul on Elio as a means to make a film likely to make it more accessible to audiences and avoid any stupid right-wing fuss, it ultimately had them to do so much reworking with the story and animation. But with the budget to become so much higher than it should have been, it may be less profitable. Pixar is far from dead, despite what haters may say, but it seems more likely this film will underperform. I have yet to see the film myself, but I'm happy people are liking it. Yeah, honestly, that does bring up a very good point, because this is actually something that the article did also mention. It's actually in regards to the fact that because of the rework that they had to do, the budget is actually much bigger than what they say, because Pixar claims that the budget is around 150, but according to the people who worked on it, it might be well above 200 million, mainly because of all the production work that they would have to go and do on that thing. So yeah, I think from there, it's not as likely that Elio is going to become like a surprise hit, and that if it wants to see any success, then maybe we'll just wait until it comes out on Disney Plus, and we'll see what people will have to say there. Let's see now. What other... Okay, oh, this one actually seems interesting. Honestly, this reminds me of the discourse around Wish's original concept and people wondering if it is better than what we have. And I always find that in that discourse was in bad faith, and more so in Wish's case, because concept might be good on paper, but execution is completely different. And you do actually bring up a very good idea. It's that even though those ideas may sound better, would it actually make a better movie though? And I mean, yeah, there's a lot of it that, especially like when you see on social media, people mainly just want to prioritize just finding fuel to go and throw hate at Disney and all that kind of stuff. But with what we have seen with Elio so far, even though there was a bit of a different idea, and yeah, maybe there are some ideas that would have actually helped improve the feature, including having the queer codedness of Elio, but overall, not necessarily the queer codedness, but would the original vision that Adrian Molina had would make a better movie? That's like a whole different topic altogether. All right, I think I'm going to go and read one more comment before we can move on to the next story. So let's see. Anyone that I haven't read yet? Just go. Okay, I'll go and see this right over here. I don't know what words to say about this. This was supposed to be the decade where I can embrace 3D without constraints. Sure, there will always be constraints. I'm just talking about in general. I find it upsetting that Pixar, out of all studios, would be such in a position in this decade, which it was supposed to be exciting and more freedom, and certain factors would have ruined it. Well, I mean, it's very much like when we have heard about the production nightmare of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, or most of Phil Lord and Chris Miller's productions of their animated films. What else do you expect from a non-union animation studio? All right, so with that said, we're going to go on to one more break, and when we do come back, we're going to go and talk about some more controversial stories and more, well, maybe not production troubles, but more behind the scenes troubles. But this one is actually more in relation to streaming and one of the biggest adult animated series of our time. So stay tuned for that. And now, everyone, it is time that we will cap this episode off with the grand finale. And on this grand finale, we are not done talking about behind-the-scenes controversies. Oh no, it's not just Pixar where trouble is brewing, because there is also another place in which, oh boy, when you look at what's happening behind the scenes, it's just been messy. But first and foremost, allow me to go and show you a little something. This is just a little teaser of what's going to be to come. At first, it might not seem like much, but it's actually a pretty nice way to begin this little story here. So allow me to go and present to you this little teaser here.
Times have changed. Blame Canada.
And yes, that was the teaser trailer for season 27 of South Park, to which it will be premiering on Comedy Central on July 23rd. Now, you might be wondering at this point, well, is that really what I want to go and talk about? Is it just about South Park season 27? Well, not necessarily, because there is something very interesting, because originally it was supposed to be coming out this week. The premiere was supposed to be on July 9th. However, due to some complications behind the scenes, it had to be delayed on July 23rd. And the complications are not necessarily from making the show itself. The production of making the South Park episodes, it's fine. And as you could tell, they're back to their wacky selves. And of course, being their topical selves, especially going into some of the recent news that has occurred, including airplanes that are crashing onto each other, or airplane incidents are becoming a lot more common, unfortunately, in 2025. There's also a little hint of P. Diddy, and a little clue of apparently a ketamine episode, which is probably a reference to Elon Musk's drug addiction, and a few others, and not to mention, like with the little tune that you hear on the side, like blame, like playing a dramatic version of Blame Canada. There's going to be an episode that's going to be in relation to Canada versus the U.S., or specifically Canada versus Trump. However, even though with all that going on, the reason why there have been some troubles behind the scenes is actually in regards to its streaming deal. And honestly, it's because of this why I actually learned about what this is actually going to be about, because this has been going on for a few weeks. And surprisingly enough, I haven't seen people talking about it. I guess everybody, in terms of animation and entertainment news, people are more preoccupied. Some of the other bigger things that have been going on, whether it be with Elio, K-pop Demon Hunters, the How to Train Your Dragon remake, and so on and so forth. However, when it comes to streaming and South Park, Now, this is something I've actually did talk about a while back. You probably recall that there is a lawsuit going on between Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount over the streaming rights to South Park and how Warner Brothers ended up being screwed over, or that they allege that that Paramount screwed them over in terms of what they would go and get with the new episodes, which unfortunately became very minimal. And it's more than just because of the pandemic. It's just there's been a lot that were like premeditated decisions to go and screw them over. However, it's not bright either with the relationship between Trey Parker and Matt Stone and Paramount right now, especially with what's been happening with the current merger that is going on between Paramount and Skydance. So this is the big thing that has recently occurred. In fact, just to go back in the article on Deadline here, there was even a post that Trey Parker and Matt Stone did on Twitter. And yeah, there will be a bit of foul language, so I do apologize for that. But they actually stated this merger between Paramount and Skydance is a shit show and it's fucking up South Park. We are at the studio working on new episodes and we hope the fans get to see them somehow. So right now, apparently the merger is becoming the biggest obstacle against South Park. It's the one thing that's been really causing them problems, and that's especially the case with streaming. Because as you know, right now, the deal that Paramount had with Warner Brothers in terms of the South Park streaming rights, because ever since 2019, I believe 2019, but ever since they've gotten the rights in 2019, HBO Max has been the exclusive streaming home of South Park, that they were the ones who had the rights to go and present it on their streaming platform. But just recently, the contract has expired. And what Trey Parker and Matt Stone want is a non-exclusive deal. You know, they don't want to be restricted to just one streaming platform like with Paramount. They want to go and have negotiations with other streaming platforms to see if they would want to go and have a look onto making a deal. Like they're talking with Netflix, and they're even talking with Warner Brothers to see if South Park could maybe stay on HBO Max, at least for the US. However, then comes the upcoming president of Paramount, Jeff Shell. Or at least after the merger, when it does happen, Jeff Shell would become the president of Paramount. And already, even though it's not official just yet that he can have that position, he's already messing things up with the deals that they are currently making with Netflix and Warner Brothers, and pretty much manipulating it so that it could be more in favor for Paramount. So let me just go and get into my source on the Hollywood Reporter, where it states right over here, in a June 21st letter obtained by the Hollywood Reporter, Park County, the entertainment company run by Parker and Stone, threatened legal action for directing Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery to modify certain terms of their offers in a manner calculated to benefit Paramount at the expense of the company. It pointed to Shell urging WBD to give Paramount Plus an exclusive 12-month window for new episodes of the show and to shorten the term of the deal from 10 to 5 years, which could worsen the studio's bid for the series. So essentially, Jeff Shell is just coming in and screwing up their deal, where ultimately Trey Parker and Matt Stone would end up getting less, just for the sake of making Paramount Plus the exclusive home of South Park in terms of streaming, or at least the official home. Because Paramount, this was something that Paramount has already spread interest, because they really, really want South Park to be on Paramount Plus no matter what, including all the episodes that they have done. And to go and continue in my source here, there's even some quotes that has been said by the lawyers and in the letter, where it states here, "We hereby demand that you, Redbird and Skydance, immediately cease your interference. If these activities continue, we will have no choice but to act to both protect our rights and discharge any obligations we may have to the public." This would even continue where... It even states over here, "You did this behind Park County's back. That self-dealing would have been absolutely restricted if it were done by Paramount itself. So it is simply outrageous that even before it has been granted the authority to close the merger with Paramount, Redbird and Skydance are jumping the gun and using confidential information of South Park Digital Studios, which that's the company that is handling the streaming rights of South Park, to purport to make demand on behalf of South Park Digital Studios that even Paramount has no right to make." So, yeah. That's currently the situation that they have going on. And apparently in the legal firm of Skydance's defense, the only thing that they have said is, under the terms of the transaction agreement, Skydance has the right to approve material contracts. So they're pretty much saying that Skydance is allowed to do whatever they want. So that's pretty much the situation that is going on here. It's not just the fact that season 27 is being delayed, but now the streaming rights for South Park is becoming far more complicated than ever. And right now there is currently a feud going on with Trey Parker and Matt Stone and with Paramount and Skydance. So it's been very messy so far. And I remember back when I did talk about that lawsuit of Warner Brothers versus Paramount, I do recall that I did put out my theory of how is it, what Paramount essentially wanted to do to screw over Warner Brothers to ultimately bring South Park back to Paramount Plus, at least in terms of the US. But I will say there might be some flaws within that theory. Because apparently with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they're not involved with that whatsoever. They're kind of like an outside party, and that they are pretty much being screwed over as much as Warner Brothers in a sense. Because right now, Paramount is just so focused on trying to get South Park try to have South Park stay in Paramount Plus, not just with the specials, but with all the episodes that they have made throughout the years and just stay on Paramount Plus, just to go and give that platform a massive boost. But with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they know that that shouldn't be happening because, well, let's be honest, Paramount Plus is not in a good position. They're not, they're kind of losing the streaming wars, if you will. Not many people are that interested to go and get Paramount Plus as part of their streaming platform. So that's why Parker and Stone feel like they would go and gain more of an audience if they would go and make a deal with either Warner Brothers or especially with Netflix, just to go and have a bigger audience with their streaming and not have Paramount to come in and interfere to go and mess things up for them, or especially Paramount and Skydance, which does bring up another massive issue with this whole situation. It's already showing that the merger is becoming extremely messy. And I don't necessarily mean the merger itself, but the aftermath of the merger, that if or when is going to be under new management, under David Ellison and Jeff Shell and all those people, that they're going to start off with having some bad relationships with people that they should be good to. Because keep in mind, we are talking about South Park. It's possibly one of the it pretty much is one of the biggest IPs that Paramount has right now, next to SpongeBob. And that's something that they cannot afford to lose right now, especially with Paramount being in such a bad position where they have no choice but to be involved with a merger. And if they go, if they start off by having a bad relationship with Parker and Stone, then they might run the risk of actually losing the rights to South Park altogether, and Parker and Stone is just going to move on to another studio altogether to go and present South Park. Maybe just be exclusive to streaming on Netflix, or maybe make a deal with another company like probably with Warner Brothers, or heck, it's not out of the, it's not out of the realm of the possibility where they could make a deal with Disney and have South Park be a part of the Fox Animation Domination League right next to Family Guy, Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, American Dad, and all that kind of stuff. Maybe like soon South Park could be a part of the Hulu family. There is that possibility, and all that could occur. But for now, it's just not looking great with what they're trying to do with the whole meddling of their, of the deals that they want to go and do, because Parker and Stone are just looking after South Park. Their goal is to go and find a good streaming home for South Park in the next few years. Whereas Paramount and Skydance, on the other hand, their goal is to try to boost up Paramount Plus and to keep South Park in Paramount Plus and not move anywhere else. That the top priority is going to be Paramount Plus before even thinking about moving to another platform in the first place, which again could ultimately screw over Parker and Stone in terms of their business. So honestly, I personally do understand with how Parker and Stone, how they're feeling, and again, that they are threatening a lawsuit against them just to go and say, back off. Because yeah, like it really, honestly, like looking into this, I never thought I would get back into the story, but it really shows how the streaming rights for South Park is like in such a weird, complicated situation, because there definitely is a demand to have South Park in a streaming platform, but with the way that Paramount currently is, especially when it's in the middle of a merger with Skydance, it just makes things so complicated, debatably more complicated than it should, where the interests are like in different areas. The creators want to do what's best for the show, but then you got the company who's just interested in doing what's best for the company. And unfortunately, they just don't align. Now, where will be the official streaming home of South Park, or at least in terms of the US? That is going to be something I believe we're going to have to wait and see. So yeah, honestly, it's just been nuts to go and find. And honestly, I'm shocked that this just flew right under my radar. Like, again, this is actually a report that came out back on June 23rd. So it's been a couple of weeks, a couple of weeks, I'd say, since this news was reported. But it's just, it's just wild to see how this is developing and how it's so complicated, and that there's a lot of legal action that's been going on and a lot of feuds that's been happening. But yeah, honestly, in my opinion, I feel like I think there needs to be some action on Paramount and Skydance's part to make things up for Parker and Stone and just let them do what they want. The relationship is already rocky as is. Make sure that you always stay on good terms with them if you want South Park to stay within the Paramount family, because otherwise Paramount would no longer have South Park, and that would put them in a much worse position than they already are now. So with that said and done, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you feel about the current situation of South Park's streaming rights, and how do you feel about the tough situation that Parker and Stone have found that they're pretty much in the middle in? So let me know what you all think about that. And by the way, I know that a lot of people have pointed out that, well, I don't know if South Park would make a deal with Disney, considering that Mickey Mouse is often portrayed as a villain in the show. But I mean, you could argue the same thing with Family Guy and The Simpsons. Often they portrayed both Disney and Mickey Mouse in a villainous way, and yet look at where they are. Look at where they are now. Look at where The Simpsons and look at where Family Guy is now, where they are a major part of the Disney family. So in that regards, I don't think, honestly, if Simpsons and Family Guy can be a Disney property, it wouldn't be hard to imagine South Park would be also. I know what I said sounds pretty wild. It sounds crazy, but then again, look at the podcast you're listening or watching. All right. Anyways, it kind of sucks what's been going on with South Park and what's going on or what's happening with the now Skydance era of Paramount and the streaming rights being a mess. I could see the show making fun of Skydance in the near future. With this happening, I can tell that Skydance is going to screw over everyone and everything else in Paramount. If South Park did end up with Disney, it would be so ironic since Mickey is one of the villains in the show and in universe. Mickey is one of the reasons why the COVID-19 pandemic happened. Oh my God. Yeah, there would be some massive irony, but I mean, crazier stuff has happened. But yeah, honestly, I'm just going to say right now, like, it would not surprise me whatsoever if we do end up having a Skydance episode of South Park, because there's a lot that Parker and Stone are going through. But then again, you got to keep in mind that they are given some material for a potential major episode that could come, or maybe even a season finale where they could actually make David Ellison the villain. Who knows? All right. Any other comments? Let me see here. I'm honestly not a huge South Park fan, but I definitely think this is a whole mess. It's one thing that the premiere got delayed because of the merger, but there's also the fact that all the meddling of the streaming rights and the fact that they need to be on Paramount Plus, especially with how much it's struggling. Let's be honest. At most, the only thing worthwhile on Paramount Plus is just the classic Nickelodeon content on there, and that's it. Exactly. And even the Nickelodeon stuff, like, they're not entirely loyal to Paramount Plus either. I mean, take a look at SpongeBob. I mean, yeah, sure, like, you could go and watch all the SpongeBob episodes on Paramount Plus, but when it comes to some of the new stuff, like the movies, for example, like the Sandy Cheeks movie or the Plankton movie, that's a Netflix exclusive. So yeah, even the properties on that's under the Paramount umbrella, even they're aware that, staying on Paramount Plus is not a surefire way to go and get people's attention. All right. Any other comment? Okay, we're getting some comments now. Paramount and Skydance's merger had led to many issues, especially even though it hasn't happened yet. The Tiny Chef's Nickelodeon cancellation was partially caused by it too. One thing Paramount cannot afford to lose is South Park, so I hope they resolve things with Partner and Stone as soon as possible. Oh, exactly, man. And I think there will be one more comment left before we cap this off. So Paramount put South Park in a precautious position, and as this way, they are the exclusive home of South Park and that no one else gets it. I know that South Park is not afraid of making jabs at this situation, and if the meddling of the streaming rights and with the delay, then this whole thing is a mess. Actually, I'll just go and quickly read one more comment here. Man, why can't Paramount and Skydance just let Matt and Stone do, or Parker and Stone do what they want to do with South Park? As a South Park fan, this honestly sucks where we haven't gotten anything South Park for a while because of the messy relationship with the creators and the company that has the rights to South Park. So overall, this whole thing is a mess, and I hope they resolve things soon. I definitely understand where you're going with. And honestly, that should go and do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Now, thank you all so much for watching this, and I hope you all had a great time with the discussions that we have here. So tune in for next time when we will have more crazy stories to go and uncover on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And I would like to go and let you know, by the way, if you would like to go and follow for more stories of what may come and more episodes that you don't want to miss on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat Live Twitch channel and the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. At the same time, if you are listening to this on whatever podcast service you are hearing right now, whether it be Spotify or Apple, Amazon, or anything like that, then don't forget to go and follow me there as well. And with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.